In the chronicles of the Imperium, there are moments when the fate of humanity hinges on a single breath, a single bullet, or a single heart still beating. The first war for Armageddon was one such moment. On the industrial world consumed by endless war, amidst billions crushed beneath the boots of Orc warlord Ghazghkull Mag Uruk Thraka, one man stood against the tide, Commissar Sebastian Yarrick. He was not a space marine, not a Primarch, but a mortal man armed only with faith in the Emperor. But in this version of history, that faith fell silent. During the final counter-offensive at Hades' Hive, as ranks of Leman Russ tanks erupted in fire and the sky darkened under the smoke of uncountable guns, Yarrick was struck by an Orc shell. The shrapnel tore through his chest, shattering the Aquila emblem he carried close to his heart. He fell, still gripping his bolt pistol, lips forming his final vow of loyalty. No one among the Imperial Guard believed Yarrick could die. To them, he was invincible, the embodiment of defiance, the bane of Ghazghkull. But when news of his death spread, the spirit of Armageddon collapsed. Guns fell silent, not for lack of ammunition, but because faith had run dry. The Orcs needed no strategy, only fear. Within days, the Hive cities began to fall. Astra Militarum garrisons fractured, some fled into the irradiated deserts, others surrendered or perished. Hades' Hive, symbol of humanity's defiance, became a burning torch visible from orbit. When Hades fell, Ghazghkull stood upon the ruins and laughed. No commissar remained to challenge him, no voice left to call for resistance. The warlord declared Armageddon his, mounting Yarrick's severed head upon his war tank. The image spread across the stars, a message of mockery to the Imperium itself. From Terra, the reports came too late. The tactical maps of Astra Militarum were updated with a single black mark over Armageddon. No rescue, no hope. The surrounding systems descended into chaos, and across the stars, billions whispered the same question. If the Emperor truly protects, why did he let Yarrick die? Rebellion spread like wildfire. Entire regiments turned to chaos, believing survival was the only truth. The proud Astra Militarum began to fracture from within. Meanwhile, Ghazghkull transformed Armageddon into a fortress world, spawning billions of Orcs in his image. The Wa expanded, unchecked, unchallenged by the legend that once haunted them. Yarrick's name became a mockery shouted in Orc war chants instead of a symbol of fear. Over the next 2 centuries, the Imperium lost more than 1,000 systems. Counter-offensives crumbled without a unifying will. Historians would call it the Age of Silence, when no commissar dared shout for the Emperor for fear of invoking a promise that no longer carried meaning. When the last transmissions from Armageddon reached Terra through the warp, they were fragmented, corrupted, nearly lost. Among them was a single image, a shadowed figure standing in the inferno, power sword raised high, moments before being consumed by the blast. Scholars argued for millennia whether it was truly Yarrick, or merely the ghost of humanity's final faith. Whatever the truth, the death of Commissar Yarrick was not merely the fall of a man, it was the fracture of an empire's soul. In the Imperium of Man, when symbols die, so too does belief. After the fall of Hades' Hive and the death of Commissar Yarrick, Armageddon became the symbol of humanity's ultimate defeat. The orbit was filled with drifting wreckage, and the surface burned beneath endless storms of ash and fire. There were no more banners, no more cries of faith, only static-filled distress calls fading into the warp. Ghazghkull Thraka transformed the planet into the holy ground of his Wa. Billions of Orcs gathered around the ruins of Hades, their brutal hymns echoing across the wastelands as mech boys turned Imperial factories into monstrous forges. Tanks, titans, and artillery of mankind were dismantled and remade into grotesque abominations of metal and flesh, soulless machines that lived only to kill. On Terra, the High Lords were divided. Some demanded the Astartes intervene. Others deemed it futile. The warp around Armageddon had become unstable, a psychic ocean where the Astronomicon could no longer penetrate. Every ship that entered vanished without trace. Armageddon was declared lost, a dead world and a scar upon the Emperor's light. Within that shadow, the Imperium began to fracture. Outer worlds fell silent, and several systems declared independence. The ecclesiarchy altered its prayers, omitting Yarrick's name, fearing his memory had become a symbol of failure. Meanwhile, astropathic whispers spread tales that Yarrick's soul remained trapped between the warp and reality, a being of faith, neither saint nor ghost. The legend spread among the Astra Militarum. Secret shrines were built in the barracks, candles lit for the Commissar of the Dark, a martyr who had not abandoned them. Soldiers claimed that when campfires burned low, they felt his presence watching, reminding them not to forget. But the Emperor remained silent. The Astronomicon still burned, yet its light no longer reached Armageddon. The warp stirred restlessly, sensing the cracks in humanity's belief. From the maelstrom surrounding the planet, whispers began. Unseen voices echoed through derelict ships, promising that Yarrick's spirit still called to his soldiers, that only by forsaking the Emperor could they free him. Thus began the heresy of Armageddon faith, a cult born from despair, worshipping Yarrick as the god of sacrifice. They believed he had died because of the Imperium's corruption, and that humanity could only rise again through blood and fire. While the Imperium fought itself, Ghazkul's empire expanded unchecked. His fleet spread the symbol of the Iron Skull, a twisted idol modeled after Yarrick's visage. The icon became a mockery of the Imperium, and wherever it appeared, fear followed. On Mars, the Magos of the Mechanicus detected anomalous signals from the warp near Armageddon. It was neither orc nor chaos, it resembled Imperial tactical code. Some believed it was Yarrick's consciousness, digitized by the warp's distortion. The ecclesiarchy called it heresy, but the pattern persisted. And where the signal appeared, Imperial troops fought harder, shot straighter, and refused to break. Some swore they saw a spectral figure with a bionic eye guiding them through the smoke. The Imperium no longer knew which to fear more, the enemy without or the ghost within. By the 3rd century of the Age of Silence, the Imperium had become a shadow of its former glory. Armageddon was now fully engulfed by the warp, a world where reality and madness coexisted. And in that storm, some claimed to see a crimson light flickering endlessly, like the bionic eye of Commissar Yarrick, watching humanity forever, refusing to rest. When Armageddon vanished into the warp, all contact was lost. Yet amid the psychic storms, strange echoes persisted. Imperial codes intertwined with ancient hymns. The Magos of Mars confirmed that the signal was structured, intelligent, as if a mind were speaking from beyond reality. They named it Echo Yarrick. At first, the Imperium denied its existence. The ecclesiarchy branded it a blasphemy, a trick of chaos. But wherever the signal reached, Imperial soldiers fought with impossible courage. They swore they saw a man in a black coat, wielding a bolt pistol, his bionic eye glowing crimson amid the smoke. Reports spread across the front lines. When the battle was lost, a red light appeared through the dust. Survivors claimed they felt a presence moving among them, cold and silent, commanding them to stand firm. No words, no sound, only the will of one who refused to die. Inquisitors were dispatched. Some claimed it was a miracle, Yarrick's soul sanctified by the Emperor. Others warned it was no saint but a manifestation of faith itself, born from the collective desperation of mankind, neither holy nor damned. Purge orders followed. Anyone uttering the name Echo Yarrick was executed. Yet suppression only made the legend stronger. Entire regiments defied Terror's orders, repainting their armor with a red eye symbol, their oath to the ghost of Armageddon. In the warp, where time held no meaning, Yarrick's soul endured. Unlike those devoured by chaos, he drifted in the void, carrying the memories of billions. He no longer knew what he was, man, saint, or monster. Every time a soldier swore loyalty, he felt a spark ignite. Every time faith was lost, the darkness grew colder. Then came the light. Not the Astronomicon, but something born of mortal faith. A golden radiance formed from the prayers of millions who still whispered his name. It wrapped around Yarrick's spirit, reshaping him in armor of black and silver, his bionic eye burning like a star. In that moment, he realized he had become what the Imperium feared most, a symbol beyond their control. The warp storms around Armageddon began to change. The chaos coalesced into a stable red-violet nebula, rotating around a single crimson point. Navigators called it times the Eye of Faith *. Ships entering it were not destroyed, they simply vanished. Survivors of lost expeditions spoke of another realm within the warp, a legion of souls, led by Ghost Yarrick, waging war against chaos in eternal silence. They claimed there existed a second Imperium, one of light born from sacrifice. The Inquisition could not tolerate such heresy. 2 centuries later, they declared the Eye of Faith quarantined, its existence erased from all records. But within the warp, Yarrick's legion remained. They needed no light, no command, only faith that defied death itself. Ships passing near the Eye sometimes reported spectral fleets drifting beside them, torn banners bearing the Aquila. On the command decks, observers swore they saw a lone figure with a glowing red eye watching through the void. Some prayed, others wept. No one knows what Yarrick has become, saint or spectre, but all know this: he endures. And as long as mankind fights, the ghost of Armageddon will watch, reminding all that victory always demands a soul. 2 centuries after Armageddon was lost, the warp surrounding it no longer raged with madness. It had stabilized into a colossal phenomenon, a luminous eye pulsing rhythmically in space. Navigators called it the Eye of Faith. Unlike the chaotic storms of the ruinous powers, this region beat like a living heart, each pulse spanning thousands of light seconds. Voyagers reported faint echoes near its borders, not the screams of daemons, but the harmonious hum of countless voices. Within its core burned a constant crimson light, the unblinking gaze of Yarrick's bionic eye. From Terra, the Inquisition observed anomalies spreading across nearby systems. On worlds where citizens prayed before battle, victories soared. Where faith waned, warp storms flared. It became clear that the Eye of Faith was no mere phenomenon. It was a living reaction to the collective belief of mankind. When the Ordo Hereticus convened, 3 doctrines emerged. One claimed it a miracle proof that Yarrick's soul had merged with the Emperor's will. Another warned it was parasitic, consuming faith to empower itself apart from the Astronomicon. The oldest among them proposed the most terrifying idea of all. Both forces now coexisted, and one day, one must eclipse the other. To uncover the truth, the Inquisition dispatched a fleet. At its head was Inquisitor Lord Kalen, once a young witness to Yarrick's final stand. He led 40,000 men and 3 titans of Legio Invicta. Upon entering the Eye, all transmissions ceased. Only the Mechanicus log survived. Its final entry read, *, the sky burns red. Thousands of ancient imperial ships drift before us. At their head, a black figure stands, one eye blazing. *, no one returned. The Eye expanded, swallowing their fleet. The warp fell silent, calm and vast, as if it had fed. Panic spread through the Imperium. The High Lords forbade the name Armageddon. The Mechanicus erased all records. Yet among soldiers and pilgrims, a whisper endured the tale of the Second Imperium, a hidden realm within the warp, led by Yarrick, commanding an army of the fallen. Reports soon followed from the galactic rim. Chaos hosts annihilated without cause. Orc warbands vanished mid-battle. Survivors spoke of a single phrase echoing across the void, *, for the Emperor. But the voice was not his. It was Yarrick's. The Imperium now faced a divine paradox. Were they saved or supplanted? If the Eye of Faith was truly Yarrick, then the Emperor was no longer the only light in the darkness. And if Yarrick had become a god of his own, then mankind had birthed a challenger to its own throne. Centuries passed. The Eye of Faith remained the one stable beacon in the warp. Navigators used it to chart safe passage, calling it the Twin Lights of Salvation, one belonging to the Emperor, one to Yarrick. No one could tell which was real, and thus the Imperium endured split between 2 beliefs, 2 symbols, 2 sons of faith, one immortal upon Terra, one eternal within the warp. Both guided humanity onward, but none could say if ever their lights were to meet, whether salvation or apocalypse would follow.